Hello backpackers, this is Juan from Juan Backpacks, and today I'm going to talk to you about my strategy for traveling with my backpacking gear, specifically flying with my backpacking gear. I'm also going to have a bonus at the end about how I deal with clothing when I get off trail. I've got a little strategy for that too. So let's talk about flying with your backpacking gear. Here is my overarching concept for flying with my backpacking gear. I want to carry on with me on my person as much of my backpacking gear as I can. And I do that in my backpack. Now I'm an ultralight backpacker, so that means that my backpack typically is pretty small. The backpack that I carry on most times, as a matter of fact, I've carried it on 6 different times, making it through customs and making it onto the plane, and I'm going to bring it back over here real quick, is my Shadow Light 60-liter pack. This has been out to California with me to do the Tahoe Rim Trail, to do the High Sierra Trail, and to do the John Muir Trail, and each time I carried it onto the airplane through even different, airlines. And so this pack is a 60-liter pack, and I never, though, fill it above the height of the frame because I feel like that would be pushing the limits. And so I do have to be pretty careful with how full I have the pack, and I am an ultralight backpacker. So typically when I go to the Sierra, even with a bear can, like the BB 500, I will have about 13 pounds of gear total. So the first thing I really think about is getting as much gear on the plane as I can with me in my backpack. I know that you'll say, well, you can check it and all these other things. But here's what I know about traveling with gear based on fly fishing and traveling as well. Sometimes you're under time limitations. And I've had that happen to me on a fishing trip where my gear doesn't get there and I lose a whole day of fishing that I paid for. That I paid to get there and so forth, and I lose that whole day. And since that happened, I know that it's a slim thing, but I always want to travel with as much gear that I can so that I can do what I need to do on the other end. Remember, as backpackers, especially into the Sierra, we've got permits that start on a certain day. We've got logistics to get to the trailhead. And if any of that goes awry because we got to wait around a day or two for them to find our bags that are missing, that's going to mess up our plans. And I've already got so much time and effort invested and money invested in these travel trips that I don't want to let anything go to chance. And that's why I try to carry on as much gear as I can in my backpack onto the plane. And here's how I do that. The first thing you have to think about is space too. And what I do to maximize space is if I have a bear can, like when I'm traveling to California, I'll literally make sure I put stuff in the bear can so I can keep that pack size down. I would say for anything that you do as well, check with the TSA before you fly because things change all the time. Just go through their list, check your stuff, against what they say on the website and go with those, obviously go with those recommendations and those rules. I'd also say that check for the size of the bags you're allowed to carry on to make sure that your backpack fits those diameters. If I was to stuff this thing and make it super high, above here, I'm guessing that they'd probably stop that from going through because it could get so big that it wouldn't fit their dimensions that you're allowed on a lot of airlines. So I'm going to carry as much as I can in my backpack on with me. The other thing I need to think about is what gear do I have to check in the check bags, right? What gear do I have to check in check bags because I'm not allowed to carry it on the plane with me. Again, this is where the TSA website comes in. You really got to refer to that each and every time you fly. I do it. I go through my gear, check it against things I see on the TSA website, search things, send messages if I have to about gear to get clarification. But I do all that ahead of time so I know what I have to check in, at least what's allowed on the plane, but has to be, in the checked bags. Here's how I check bags, okay? So I take things like this. The shovel could be seen as a weapon, right? So this is kind of a thing I do. I think some people probably fly with them, but I won't do it because I'm afraid we'll get in trouble. So if there's things on the gray line, I just put them in my checked bag. The tent stakes. A lot of times you are not allowed to fly with them if you go by the letter of law. I've heard people say I've flown with them. I do go with what's on the TSA website. So I check this in, and then I check my knife in. And again, I go through my gear with a fine tooth comb. Obviously your trekking poles. Again, people will argue and say I've carried all my trekking poles, blah, blah, blah. But again, you know, most the information I've seen says you got to check this stuff. And so I'm going to check it and not take, you know, the chance of it getting confiscated. All I really do with my check-in gear is put it in a box like this, and I check it in. I guess you could mail it to yourself out there, but the problem is once you do that, you really do lose track of it, and you've got to have a place to do it. It just creates more logistics. So I'll check this. The trick here is when I'm going to check that box in, you know, when I get to the airport, obviously I get there early. When I'm going to check that box in, what I do ahead of time, I'll seal it up, tape it up. You can see I get tape on this. I'll make a list of everything I put in my check-in luggage box so that if it does get lost, I can replace it. Now think about the things in here. I've got these trekking poles. I can get them at a Walmart. I can get cheap tent stakes someplace. I can get a shovel anywhere for $5 at a Walmart. I can get a little pocket knife like this almost anywhere. So basically a lot of the stuff you're going to put in here that can't fly with you in the plane with you, that you're going to check in, a lot of that stuff can be replaced pretty darn easily. The flip side of that is the things I've got on the plane with that are in my pack are my $500 ultralight tent, my ultralight quilt, my ultralight clothing that I wear when I'm actually backpacking. So those are the real key things that are hard to replace if they get lost and the flight gets sent to some other location and have to make their way back to you again. So that's the beauty of this. And I'll make a list. I'll put that list either on a piece of paper and take it with me, or I'll put it in my phone, and that's what I do. I just make a list on my phone of what's in my checked luggage box, and then I fly, and if I lose it, I got a list right there. I know exactly what was in this box. Most of the stuff can be replaced pretty darn easy and quickly. So once I get to location and I land, I typically just ditch the box, and then when I'm coming back, I'm less worried about this gear. I might actually just get a box and just mail a bunch of stuff home at that point and not even have to pay to check the box to come back. That's what I've done this last time when I went to the Tahoe Rim Trail in July. And I flew with this just so it'd be with me. And I had no real place I could mail it to anyway, because the way I was traveling into town, into South Lake Tahoe. And so I just got rid of it. And then when I was done with the trail, I took some of this gear plus a bunch of other gear, and I just put it in a box and shipped it back home. I could have flown back with this, with another box again if I wanted to. So that's my checked luggage right there. The other category that I think about is the category of gear that you're not even allowed to have on the plane, things that you're not allowed to have in the plane. Example of that would be a canister of fuel. You can't even put it in checked luggage, right? You cannot do it. Bear spray, I don't believe you're allowed to have bear spray on a plane as well. So there are things that you can't fly with that you have to pick up when you land at the store before you hit the trailhead. And typically I build in a little bit of time to stop someplace to be able to do these things. And so I'll actually make a list of all the things I'm going to buy. Just for example, yes, this goes on the list. Another thing I always put on my shopping list is like a 750 liter smart water bottle and a 1 liter smart water bottle, because I just don't feel like, figuring out how to fly with it in my pack and, going through all those things. And so basically I just pick it up when I get there. But this kind of stuff can't go with you at all on the plane. And so you got to think about that. Another thing too is think about like what can't be in the checked-in box, right? Like batteries, right? You can't, lithium batteries, things like that. So that's always going to be in my pack with me. And luckily, because the InReach Mini, again, it's going to be in my pack with me. It's hard to replace. So I like it being on my person when I fly. So you can see how I do this. It's fly with as much gear as I can that's typically hard to replace. I check gear that can't be with me on the plane in my checked-in luggage box, right? And then I make a list so I know if it gets lost, I know what I got to replace real quick, and most of that stuff is going to be able to be replaced pretty quickly. And then there are things that I just can't have on the plane at all. And so I'm going to make a list of those things as well on my phone or on a piece of paper so that I can just pick them up, and I plan on my way to the trailhead. I plan that into my logistics where I can stop and pick this stuff up. I might even, have to buy food, right? So a lot of times we're, buying food before we hit the trail on location. I'll do that. So that's my strategy for flying with gear. Now, the last thing I said I would talk about is clothing. You know, a lot of people are like, Juan, what do you do about clothing on the trail? And when you get off the trail, you know, you're telling me you fly with your gear, like do you take like a bunch of, clothes? No, I don't. I only take what I'm going to backpack, my extra clothing. And my extra clothing, watch some of my loadouts, is very minimal. You know, it's only what I need. It's like one extra pair of underwear, one extra pair of socks, not changes of clothing. What I wear is good. When I fly out, I literally fly out in what I'm going to hike. When I get there, I might spend a night or two in a hotel while I'm preparing to get to the trailhead, while I'm doing that shopping I talked about to get my canister. I might spend a night at a hotel or a hostel or 2 nights. When I'm there, I might just rinse out my clothes like I would do on the trail. I just basically act like I'm on the trail. I got the same clothes every day, and I'll rinse them out, dry them out, and then put them on. The other thing I do when I get off the trail, though, is that I do want like at least one other change of clothing. Typically, what I do when I get off the trail, I'll go to some cheap place like TJ Maxx. I will go to maybe Walmart, or maybe go to a thrift store. I found some great clothes at thrift stores. You know, for a few bucks, you can get shorts, a t-shirt or two. You go to TJ Maxx, get some cheap underwear, right? Whatever. You buy those things when you get off trail. You go to a dollar store and get yourself some shampoo. Or if you're in a hiker town, there might be a place with a hiker box. Pick up some shampoo and stuff like that, because a lot of people ditch shampoo and hiker boxes and so forth in different locations. So, there's lots of options there just to pick some stuff up after you get off trail to wear around town. Typically, I'll just wear my trail, my trail shoes, my trail runners, and I usually have like a pair of minimalist, a few ounces worth of sandals I wear in camp, so I can wear those around. So I got some options. Plus, I wash out my clothes I backpacked in, so I got one pair of clothes there. I buy a change of clothes, and that'll do me for the 2 or 3 days until I leave town on the plane again. So again, pretty minimalist approach. What I've done, though, is really boil things down to really simplistic, simple way, straightforward way of getting in and out of my trips. And this has worked for me for the last 4 years. I've been traveling and doing trips out to Sierra, and I'm on the East Coast, so I'm traveling completely across country to do these things. I find it to be easy. As a matter of fact, it takes away a lot of layers of planning, because it's like, I know people will call ahead, see if they keep their luggage there, call ahead, see if they can do this, call ahead and see if they can do that. I don't want to do any of that stuff. I just want to get on the plane with my gear and, whatever I can carry on, and check the rest, buy what I need when I get there, not be bothered with it, not even worry about clothes until I get off trail, and then just do the, use clothes place or something like that, and do what I need to do. It makes it honestly fun, and there's not much to think about. So anyway, that's my strategy for flying with my gear. I know it's a little bit different probably than what you've heard from other folks, but it works for me, and it works beautifully, doing the Tahoe Rim Trail, doing the High Sierra Trail, and doing John Muir Trail, all of those things. So, if you have any questions, comments, definitely post up below. I'll be happy to answer questions, or if you have some other ideas that I didn't come up with, certainly willing to hear. So backpackers, till next time, stop watching YouTube videos. Get out there and do some backpacking. YouTube, don't do it unless they're my videos. Then watch them all from start to finish. Later, backpackers.